मैं देश की सभी महिलाओं को, बहनों को, बेटियों को इंटरनेशनल विमेंस डे की बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूं। और आज ही मैं अभी, आप तो यहां बैठे हैं, मैं गैस सिलेंडर का 100 रुपया कम करके आया हूं।
LPG price cut ahead of Lok Sabha polls.
प्रधानमंत्री ने कहा है कि गैस सिलेंडर के दाम 100 रुपया घटाया जाएगा। क्यों? पिछले साल भी था 8 मार्च अंतर्राष्ट्रीय महिला दिवस, तब भी 1000 रुपया था सिलेंडर। आज घोषणा करने की जरूरत, मजबूरी क्या थी प्रधानमंत्री की? मजबूरी ये थी कि अभी चुनाव आ गया।
Opposition questions timing.
Why didn't they think of this earlier? Why just when election is 10 days? I mean, it will probably be announced in the next 5 or 6 days is what I hear in the media. So, ये और एक जुमला है भैया।
Ahead of Lok Sabha polls, netas woo women voters.
महिलाओं के लिए मैंने ऐलान किया है 1000 रुपए।
हम 1500 रुपया अपनी बहनों को, बेटियों को देने जा रहे हैं।
Do cash handouts empower women? What does the woman voter want? Political rumble with Rajdeep Sardesai.
Hello and welcome. It's International Women's Day and International Women's Day weekend as well. A day when we celebrate women power or Nari Shakti. Our politicians have slowly but surely realized it, and they are wooing the woman voter like never before ahead of the 2024 elections. The latest step being an LPG price cut of 100 rupees on the eve of the general elections announced by the Narendra Modi government. From cash handouts to women, to welfare schemes, to promises of women's safety, women voters are being wooed like never before. But what do the country's women voters really want? And who are the politicians, parties that have the most effective women-centric schemes and agendas? That's going to be the big debate on the weekend political rumble. Joining me on this debate are special guest Nidhi Sharma is author, She the Leader, Women in Indian Politics. She's with the Economic Times. Tara Krishnaswamy is co-founder, Political Shakti, a group that empowers women in public life. Sushmita Dev is TMC's Rajya Sabha MP-elect and spokesperson. Sanju Verma is the BJP's national spokesperson. And Shama Mohammed is the Congress's spokesperson. The good news is I'm therefore the only man in this panel. It is women power all the way. First of all, happy Women's Day to each and every one of you. You make India a much better place with your knowledge and all that you bring. So congratulations to all of you. And thank you very much for joining me on the show. Our big question is going to be, what do the women of India really want from their politicians? And I'm going to raise the questions one by one. My first question is linked to the latest development, a poll eve LPG price cut by the Modi government. Is this tokenism or is this impactful? Is this really what the woman voter wants? Let me start, therefore, with Sanju Verma of the BJP. Since Sanju Verma ji, it's your party that's brought in this 100 rupee cut, and the general feeling is it's been done with an eye on an election. The last time it was done was in August, ahead of the assembly elections. Now it's being done before the general elections. It looks like the best way for women to get an LPG price cut is to have elections all the time.
Rajdeep, first and foremost, thank you for having an all-woman panel. Glad to be a part of it. I don't wish to be nasty, but elections are held, be it urban municipal body, civic body, panchayat, state level. Some of the other election is there every 3 months in India. So if you accuse the Modi government of trying to time the LPG price reduction with an eye on elections, I think that's being too unfair and presumptuous. But you're entitled to your opinion. I will now just, not be verbose, and I will just very quickly lay the groundwork in terms of what the Modi government has done specifically for women in the last 10 years to showcase to your audience that, the 100 rupee price cut is not tokenism. I think the biggest contribution for empowerment of women, especially in politics, was the 128th Amendment Bill that was cleared by the Parliament last year, the Women's Reservation Bill, or the Nari Shakti Vandan Adhiniyam, as it is called. You know, Rajdeep, in 1996, Deve Gowda tried to bring in Women Reservation Bill, but it did not come to fruition. Sonia Gandhi tried to do so in 2010, but she was arm twisted by the Samajwadi Party and the RJD, who were up in arms against it, and the likes of C.K. Jafar Sharif, one of her cabinet ministers, revolted against it. It took a leader of Narendra Modi's stature, a leader of Narendra Modi's conviction, a leader of Narendra Modi's gumption, who has the ability to seamlessly execute his grand ambition, that finally saw the Women's Reservation Bill coming to fruition after 27 tumultuous years since it was initially conceived. The second and more important point is this. Do you remember there was a lot of fanfare a couple of months back? Meera Manjhi, an extremely poor Dalit woman from Ayodhya, became the 10th beneficiary of the Ujjwala scheme, and the 10th crore beneficiary, of the Ujjwala scheme, and the 8th crore beneficiary 2 years back was, a woman called Aisha Sheikh from a small village called Ajanta in Maharashtra. Similarly, if you look at the Mudra Yojana, where 43 crore loans have been given and 30 crore loans, the beneficiaries are women from marginalized sections of the society. I will just give you two examples in 10 seconds. If you look at the Prime Minister's website...
Your time is up. Your time is coming to an end. No, ma'am. You can bring them later. No, ma'am. You can bring them later. You made your point. You're saying this is not tokenism. You're claiming that the Modi government is consciously targeting, in a way, women's schemes, women's empowerment. Let me bring in the other national party for a moment. Shama Mohammed, your response. You heard what Sanju Verma says. Look, the Prime Minister has brought in 33% women's reservation, though ironically, and I'll ask Sanju Verma this later, so far the BJP has given less than 15% tickets to women in the Lok Sabha in their first list. But your response to what you've just heard.
Okay, Rajdeep. Now, she got in the women's reservation bill. And she mentioned that Sonia Gandhi couldn't pass it because Sonia Gandhi, or the UPA government at that point, passed it in the Lok Sabha. In the Rajya Sabha, we did not have numbers. They had it in the Lok Sabha as well as the Rajya Sabha starting from 2014. 2014, they could have done it. 2015, they could have done it. 2016, they did not. They did it last year with a caveat that there should be delimitation and the census has not been done. Why, if you have passed the bill, not do it in 24? It's very simple, because they really don't want it to happen. Just again, elections are around the corner. It was just before the assembly elections they passed the bill. So it's again for election purpose and nothing to do with reservation of women. In fact, let's go back to 93 when we passed the Panchayati Raj, and it was the 73rd Amendment Act, basically, and we got in 33.3 reservation for women. So that is something which is being, I must tell you, in Kerala itself, every election, corporate election, your councillor election, it has to be 50% men. Now it's become 50% men, 50% women. And it's really brought a revolutionary change in the Panchayati Raj. And I can say that very clearly. Then she spoke about the gas cylinder prices. Now, gas cylinder prices, when it was $104 a barrel, we used to give gas at 425 rupees. We did it. They have it at 80 right now. 77 it became. They couldn't. What is one of the major reasons for inflation? The food prices is because when your diesel price and petrol prices are high. The diesel price is because you need to transport food from point A to B. The diesel, again, I'm saying around $80 a barrel. We are paying 100 or more than 100 in some states, petrol as well as diesel. During a time, again, I'm going to reiterate, $104 a barrel. We were giving petrol at 70 and diesel at 55. So that was possible, isn't it, Rajdeep? That is because we really wanted to do things. And we did not do it during election time. We did it. We subsidized. That's what we did. The other thing, very important point I want to is, very important is that we have brought in multiple acts. The Prevention of Domestic Violence Act 2005. We got the Nirbhaya Act in 2013. And you remember the huge protest, we did something. But what we are seeing right now in India is there is no protection for women. Rapists are roaming free. Bilkis Banu's rapists, mass murderers have been given parole. They've been left remissions. And the Supreme Court had to intervene and said the Gujarat BJP government did fraud on us. Fraud. These are the exact words.
Okay, ma'am. I want to give exact time to. No, ma'am. I've given you the same time as her, and in the opening comments, I will not. I will give each one of you between 90 seconds to 2 minutes without interruption, and then I will ask you specifics because there are questions that all of you have to also answer. Sushmita Dev, to you next. Tell me, how do you see the LPG price cut? Is this what women want? Do you believe that Mr. Modi is in a way giving the women a gift on International Women's Day?
You see, there's no doubt that the rate at which the price of the LPG gas cylinders have gone up over the last 2 terms of Prime Minister Modi, it's gone from 400 and something to almost 1100. But I think what I question is the timings. Because if the central government had the ability to reduce the price, whether it's 100 rupees or 200 rupees, whatever, the question is that why didn't they do it over the last few years? Because people have been buying the gas cylinders at exorbitant prices and bringing down 100 rupees when it's gone up to 400, from 400 to 1100 rupees is like a drop in the ocean. And 2 more things I'd like to add to this. That the Bharatiya Janata Party has done this repeatedly. They did it before the Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh and Rajasthan election, where they said that they will give gas cylinders at 450 rupees. But the Petroleum Minister in Rajya Sabha denied any such announcement. In the 2022 UP election, they said 2 free gas cylinders, 1 for Holi and 1 for Diwali. That also didn't happen. And neither did CM UP's announcement in November 2023 about giving free gas cylinders come through. See, the point is that price rise across the board is an issue. It's not just about gas cylinders. It's about medicines. It's about other consumable goods. And it's a very, very big issue amongst the middle class, lower class, and the poor people. So, you know, these doles come only as a knee-jerk reactions to elections, and it is not real service to the people, because if Prime Minister Modi was actually concerned about the prices, he wouldn't have timed it the way he has. That's what's suspect to me.
Okay, you made your point. You're questioning the timing of this LPG cut, linking it to elections. Tara Krishnaswamy, is this what do women see through this? In your various research that you do women see through the fact that a government, whether it's in the center or state, Sunday before elections, gives these benefits? It could be cash handouts, as we saw with the Ladli Behna scheme, or it is an LPG price cut, or is it what women want? They're very happy with the fact that governments are responding to them.
So first of all, Rajdeep, as you know, there is no silver bullet to capturing any segment's vote, including the women's vote. It is not like a one scheme is going to guarantee the women's vote. Now, secondly, any amount of LPG cut at any time is welcome. If it is before the elections, what it says to women and all citizens, in fact, the more the elections, the merrier. That is when citizens can hold parties accountable, and they will at least attempt to do the right thing. Yeah, after all, whether it's the women's reservation bill or the LPG price cut, it is happening before the elections. It did not happen in the past several years before that, unless there were elections. So in that sense, more the elections, the merrier for us. Now, the third thing, I'll go back to your own Mood of the Nation survey. Now, in your own Mood of the Nation survey, which is representative across all Lok Sabha segments as per C voter, what it says is that 30% of the people feel like their economic status has deteriorated. More than the majority feel that unemployment is serious. There's a widening gap between rich and poor, and they're not able to keep up with the expenses. The expenses are a bigger burden on them than ever before. Now, when this is the case and you reduce the LPG by 100 rupees, even if it is, time just before the elections, with 81 crore being on rations, surely it's going to help them. Think about the Ujjwala scheme. While the reach of the initial Ujjwala cylinder is high, the second replacement cylinder dramatically drops, right? Why does it drop? Because it may or may not be free. Then the third cylinder doesn't even reach them because they have to pay for it, full price. So when that happens, you can see that the benefit actually dramatically drops because people are not able to afford it. So any kind of cut is a good thing. But the difference between a Ladli Behna, a difference between the schemes that have already been delivered. Why do some governments, why do some parties repeatedly get the women's vote, whether it is the TMC, whether it is the BJD, whether it was ADMK under Jayalalitha, recently AAP got the vote, and in Madhya Pradesh, the BJP got the vote. Why does that happen? That happens because the Ladli Behna schemes, the Lakshmi Bhandar schemes have been delivered. Women don't just look for empty promises. There is no telling if it will come through. This LPG one, of course, is instantaneous. Okay. But when you're making a forward-looking promise, there's no guarantee of it come through. Ladli Behna was delivered and there was proof.
Ma'am, your time is also up. Your time is up. You're saying, therefore, that schemes that are actually delivered, like Ladli Behna, like Kanya Shri, like the schemes on the ground which have been brought in different states by chief ministers to benefit women directly have actually worked. Which leads me to my next question. I want you to answer this, Nidhi, because you've been looking at politicians closely, women politicians in your book. And the question is, do cash handouts empower women? Do cash handouts empower women? Are you seeing more and more politicians, Nidhi, first of all, recognizing the woman vote there? Did you see that? Or do women leaders, are they more sensitive to the woman vote? Or does it now spread across that the power of 49 or the power of 50 has finally been recognized?
So, Rajdeep, here I would like to tell you one thing. So, let's be very clear that you asked the question on LPG. I'll take you just a week back where Aam Aadmi Party government in Delhi, in its budget, introduced a scheme which was a Mukhya Mantri scheme which said that 1,000 rupees will be in any woman, for any woman who's 18 years of age and above is not drawing any pension. So it's not just the BJP, but parties all across. Congress government, which won in Himachal in November 2022, has introduced, in fact, it's a guarantee by the Congress, of 1,500 rupee dole to the women in Himachal. So it's across parties. And where is this thing coming from? Where is this new realization that the governments, that the parties across India are realizing? Where is this realization coming from? Is directly related to the voter turnout. So if you see increasingly since 2018 and even in some states since 2013, if you see data, the number of women turning up for voting have actually surpassed the men voter turnout, especially in states like Chhattisgarh this time again. In 75% of the booths, 75% here, women had surpassed men. Across states, Bihar, it has surpassed. Everywhere you see the women voter actually taking the central position, and this is why parties all across India, you'll see regional parties as well as national parties are actually realizing the importance of the woman vote. And you know, there was a study as well which was conducted by a Center for... Sure.
Yeah, complete. Please complete. Please complete what you were saying. Sorry. Please do complete.
So, even in CSDS, there was a survey conducted after the 2019 elections, which actually found that, you know, we had this very severe criticism, which actually said that, you know, women voters vote according to the men of the, whatever the men decide, that's exactly how they vote. But if you really see that survey very closely, it says that yes, they are swayed by what the men say, but increasingly they have a say in how they vote. So it's not just the family that is deciding, but it is also the woman who realizes her right to vote.
You know, that's the interesting shift. The question though, a couple of you use the word dole. When these cash handouts are given, are they to be seen as dole, Sanju Verma? Because your party, for example, for the longest time, and the Prime Minister led that effort when he was in the opposition, saying all these various handouts that are being given, these are freebies, these are reveries. He's even said that as Prime Minister now, giving, for example, a cash handout to a woman. Aam Aadmi Party is promising it in Delhi. Congress is promising it in Himachal. BJP has done it in Madhya Pradesh. Mamata Banerjee has done it in Bengal. Are these to be seen as doles? Or do you agree that when you give cash in hand to a woman, it empowers the woman? That's what the woman wants.
You know, Rajdeep.
Is it a reality?
Can I please? I heard you. Thank you. I heard you loud and clear. You know, I'm absolutely disappointed. And I'll say why. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has done more for women in the last 10 years than any erstwhile predecessor of his over the last 6 or 7 odd decades. And look at the irony. We've reduced all that has been done to empower Nari Shakti in the last 10 years by Narendra Modi to LPG gas cylinder prices and to cash doleouts. Allow me 20 seconds to digress. I will tell you, making instant triple talaq illegal in 2019, one of the big moves by the Narendra Modi government. Passing the Women's Reservation Bill in 2023, one of the big moves by the Narendra Modi government. Out of the 43 crore mudra loans, 30 crore loans are given to Dalit and Adivasi women. Another excellent move. Out of the 52 crore Jan Dhan bank accounts, 72% beneficiaries are poor women from the poorest sections of the society. Again, an excellent move. Then let us look at the fact that this is the first government, you know, in 2018, under whose aegis you had an Avni Chaturvedi, who became the first woman from the Indian Air Force to fly a fighter aircraft, the MiG-21 Bison. Then this is the same Narendra Modi who for the first time in more than 70 years decided that a tribal woman from the Santhal tribe belonging to the Mayurbhanj district, one of the poorest districts in Odisha, has it in her to occupy the position of the President of India, the highest constitutional position. Then this is the same Narendra Modi under whose aegis you have the Sukanya Samriddhi Yojana to empower the girl child, and this is the same Narendra Modi who defied conventional logic and traditions to actually define the first menstrual, you know, hygiene protocol from the ramparts of the Red Fort, no less. And Rajdeep Sardesai, it was Narendra Modi who amended the Medical Termination Pregnancy Act of 1971 by increasing the fetal gestation period from 20 to 24 weeks and giving women right to their bodies in terms of reproduction. And this is the same Narendra Modi who amended the maternity benefit bill to say that now women post-delivery, post-giving birth to an offspring, will get paid maternity not for 12 weeks,
I've
but for 26 weeks.
Okay, so you, that's a very, very strong, ma'am, no, ma'am, that's a very, that's a very strong endorsement. I will give you exactly 10 seconds. The problem is in 10 seconds you take a minute, but today is your day. I will give you 10 seconds. Go ahead.
Thank you. In 10 seconds, I just have to say this. The lies on your channel about LPG cylinder prices average between 2004 and 2014 was 957 rupees. The average between 2014 and 2024 under the aegis of Narendra Modi is 724 rupees. So actually LPG prices on an average in the last 10 years have come down by almost 122%. Please get your facts right.
The fact is the Narendra Modi government, that last fact is questionable, because the fact is that even when oil prices globally had moderated, the benefits of that were not passed on to the consumer. That is the reality. Remember, oil prices during that period that you mentioned earlier of UPA were much higher. There was higher subsidy granted. So barring that point, you made some very other strong points. But Shama Mohammed, you must respond to that. That don't look at Narendra Modi only through the prism of cash handouts to women, which other governments are given. Sanju Verma has listed out some of those schemes, which clearly suggests that there is a progressive mindset towards empowering women, as she puts it.
Okay, now let me make certain points clear. She says empowering women. I have data which says that 4.2 crore women or houses or women have not taken a refill of Ujjwala Yojana. like Sushmita said, they don't have the money. 7.7 crore have done only one refill. No, Rajdeep, see, when we were selling gas at 425 or 424 rupees, going above 1,000, you can understand an increase of 200 rupees. But this is a 10%, 10 or 20 or 50, more than 50% increase. That is the problem here. And that goes in, even in 2020, when the petrol prices, the world oil prices went up to $50 a barrel, they were taking the same price for petrol and diesel. It did not go down. We have, that is the issue. What we are seeing, deregulation has been done for petrol as well as diesel. Petrol was done in 2010, diesel in 2015. Deregulation means exactly when the world oil prices go down, you've got to decreases. When the world
she's saying, don't look at, Sanju Verma is saying, don't look at Mr. Modi's track record towards women only through an LPG gas cylinder or cash handouts.
So what I'm trying to tell you is that, so we have to look at that. That's important. Now for a house which earns 10,000 rupees, you have put 5% GST on things below 20 kg or 20 liters, not above. You know that. So anything, whether it's dal, atta, curd, milk, who buys things below 20 kgs? The poor, the middle class. Who buys things above 20 kgs? The rich. So that is the issue here, Rajdeep. The problem is in a house when you have 10,000 rupees. How does a woman run a house? I'm here in Kerala. People are complaining of price rise because there is no income rise. The employment has gone down. You have to understand. So there is unemployment. One of the schemes which they used to curse was Manrega. In a place like Kerala, I see Manrega workers here, women. A lot of women get jobs through Manrega. It has saved them. So there are a lot of schemes like Janani Suraksha Yojana, which was started in 2005 by our government, where women rural women used to give birth at homes. We institutionalize it so that infant mortality and maternal mortality reduces. And a huge amount of money was kept aside for it. We got in the Nirbhaya Act, but what is happening after that? Safety of women is a very important thing. When a message is given, like a Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh can get away, let me tell this very important point, can get away with rape and molestation. And in those molestation cases, women wrestlers, world famous, are involved. What does a rapist in a village, like what happened in Kanpur, 2 young teenage girls have been raped and they've been hanged. You know that they were hung just 2 days ago. Everybody says, you know what, rapists are, let me finish, rapists are going free. Gurmeet Ram Rahim, how many times?
Rajdeep, I need to come in now.
Ma'am, no, each of you will get equal time. Shama Mohammed, Sanju Verma, fade us down. You made your point. No, each of you must have respect for the other person. There are 5 guests. Sushmita Dev, let's look at that. One of the issues that has been raised consistently is that how do you increase women participation in labor force? Even though the figures are up, India is still well below most countries in the world when it comes to women participation in labor force. The problem is political parties are not doing enough to ensure that women get jobs that can shore up their incomes. Many of them are therefore casual labor even today across the country. And therefore, the fact is, rather at times than focusing on giving some instant scheme, like you even have done some of your schemes in Bengal, where is the effort to ensure encouraging greater women participation in the labor force? That is the critical question.
Absolutely. I think a very interesting point, which I'm sure Tara will agree with me, is that if we put a value to the work a woman does within her household, okay? If you put a value to the amount of work a woman does in her household, that would itself have a huge impact on our GDP. But in our country, we don't do it. So although I use the word dole, sometimes to give a woman some sort of a, if you like, some sort of a financial incentive is indirectly actually recognizing her work as a primary caretaker, as someone who does all the household work. Because ordinarily, if you look at an upper middle class family, you pay someone to do that job. That is one.
No, but which party is enhancing women's employment? According to Sanju Verma, through schemes like Mudra, women are being given a chance of getting loans to at least make them possibly more to increase women participation in labor force to actually make them self-employed. You're talking about household work. I'm saying the critical question is which government is coming up with a scheme directed at women to ensure that they actually become far greater participants in the labor force.
You see, there is a scheme called Lakpati. You know, it is also something that Prime Minister Modi apparently launched. For instance, due to a scheme which is facilitated by banks and the government in Bengal, there are more than 38 lakh Lakpati women. That means you're giving them a source of self-employment. You're giving them a source of self-employment, not necessarily working for a company. So there are several instances like that, and especially if you look at the growth of self-help groups. Okay, there are small groups of women. So if for instance in Bengal government, there are huge incentives given to self-help groups so that they're self-employed. So we talk about employment, there is enough for any government to be done. And you know, most of the time we always... Sorry.
You're making that point, but Tara Krishnaswamy, you want to dive in as someone who's not in that sense with a political party. You see, these self-help groups, for example, Seva in Gujarat, what was started by Ila Bhatt, these are models that are being scaled up in different parts of the country. Political support to some of them has been limited. Some governments have gone out of their way to to provide support to self-help groups, but many have not. Is that what politicians should be doing? Working with civil society, working with these self-help groups to scale them up?
So, Rajdeep, there are 2 or 3 points that were brought up. So, first of all, LPG, just because it is put in the same sentence as women, by the Prime Minister, it doesn't become a women's issue. It's a price rise, inflation issue. Unlike Ujjwala, where you're looking at a transition from unhealthy cooking fuels to healthy cooking fuels, LPG is purely an inflation, price rise, and a family poverty, money management issue. It applies to families, applies to men and women. That's number one. So we should not center the discussion on LPG alone. Second is, as far as labor force and jobs generation is concerned, again, with your mood of the nation, about 60% of the people, which means half of those surveyed are women, said the government is doing nothing to generate, very little to nothing to generate jobs. So you are spot on in saying that, are we doing enough to increase the labor force participation rate in general and of women in particular? Now, during state elections, various state parties that compete in the state elections have promised loans to women entrepreneurs, micro loans, of course, self-help groups and so forth. But the biggest benefit actually is the direct benefit transfer. All of the direct benefit transfer schemes we talked about do 2 or 3 things. One is dignity. Every time a woman needs, remember that when you have zero earnings, you have zero money at hand, every time you need anything from sanitary napkins to headache medicine, you need to go stand in front of someone and ask. And they're going to question you, how much do you need? Why do you need so much? I just gave it to you yesterday, kind of a thing. That is a very undignified way of going about your life. So number one, it gives them dignity. That is why it's so important and so impactful. Second is, they're able to use the money for absolute essentials, whether it's fruit and vegetables, milk, things that supplement what you and I take for granted as part of a balanced meal for themselves and their children. And finally, of course, they're able to save and use it towards the SHGs. If you look, and that is where your local employment comes in. One last thing I'll say. Kudumbashree in Kerala has grown to be what, 100 crore enterprise, entirely run by SHGs through the direct benefit stream, through the panchayats, pooling the money. So imagine, like in Karnataka, we have the Griha Lakshmi scheme. In Griha Lakshmi, the money that you get every month, if all of the women pooled the money, you're talking about lakhs of money every month in every village and many lakhs of money in every panchayat, which means that you're now able to invest it and do certain businesses on scale, whether it is production of foods, packaging, processing, even for the midday meal schemes, or to sell in, as part of cottage industries, or something much larger like
I take your point. I take your point. Schemes like Kudumbashree, schemes like Griha Lakshmi, schemes like Kanya Shri, Rupashri, all of these in a way are path breakers. They again show that governments are recognizing the power of women. But while they recognize the power of women, Nidhi Sharma, and I come to my next question, do they realize the power of political representation of women? Do we need greater political representation for women across the board? We have already seen the lists that have come out. Most of the party lists are below 20% so far, whether it's the BJP, which has come up with a list of 195 names. Do you believe that men are unwilling to walk the talk, and are women leaders perhaps more willing to do so? Or are women leaders also unwilling to allow more women to come up? What does your research show?
So, Rajdeep, first I'll just give you data very quickly. My problem is across political parties. If you see the first few elections, the state assembly elections right after the women's reservation bill, which showed the intention of all political parties to give a seat on the table, the proverbial seat on the table to women, was the women's reservation bill. Nobody opposed it, and it was passed, right? So if you look at assembly elections and the tickets given by all political parties, none of the political parties in the state assembly elections, Chhattisgarh, Rajasthan, Telangana and Madhya Pradesh, none of the parties gave, not even 20% tickets were given to women. What does it show? And imagine fewer would have won in those elections. So that goes to show that nobody is willing to give. I'm going to make it absolutely gender neutral, because if you do not have seat on the table, you are not a force to reckon with. So are men willing to give this seat on the table? No, not for anyone will they give that seat on the table. Then what about women leaders? You asked me specifically, what about women leaders? My question to all the women, Rajdeep, I'll just finish this. None of the women leaders, when I was researching for my book, when I was going through, personal anecdotes of Indira Gandhi and even Margaret Thatcher, neither of the two super powerful prime ministers, neither of the two actually thought of themselves as women leaders. They thought of themselves as leaders. Thatcher actually thought that, she took pride in the fact that she was called the only man in her cabinet. So the thing is that any of these women, even if you see our cabinet ministers, successive cabinets, not just of Modi government, even before, have you seen anyone championing the cause of women as such, positioning themselves as women leaders? No, you will not find them, because women politics is absolutely different.
Okay, it's very interesting, Nidhi, the way you put it, that Margaret Thatcher also saw her self-image as the only man in that British cabinet. But the fact is, in a country with 29 states, the reality is we have just one woman chief minister. Sanju Verma, I know you're going to say that, Nirmala Sitharaman, finance minister of the country, is a woman. You have Smriti Irani, who's a leading minister. But there is no one being positioned also, as I see, as a woman face of the BJP for the future. And you're the largest party in the country, so you have to start it. Tell me what that makes you feel when you hear that there is only one woman chief minister in a country of 1.4 billion people.
Okay. So Rajdeep, first and foremost, I'll just take 10 seconds to tell you that I'm not some seasoned politician. I've been in politics for a very short period. I was an investment banker for the longest time with the likes of JP Morgan, Phillip Capital, HDFC, etc. in leadership roles. And I remember when I decided to join politics, my siblings, all of whom are high-flying investment bankers themselves, they said, "Arey, why politics? You're doing so well. You're making, millions of dollars as salary annually. You want to give up all that?" I said, "No. This is my calling." And I'll tell you something. Nobody in BJP till date has told me, you have to dress up like this. You have to only eat this. You have to only speak in such a way. No, nobody has tried telling me what I should be doing, how I should be conducting myself. So, this entire narrative, BJP ek dakiyanusi party hai, that is absolute balderdash. Now speaking to, Nidhi Sharma made some very interesting points. And I do agree that women politicians have this knack for wanting to be seen as alpha males for whatever it is worth, but I don't belong to that category. Having said that, I will just give you in 20 seconds some very interesting data, because मुझे भी पता था आप BJP से जरूर ये सवाल करेंगे, Rajdeep. Nehru's first cabinet had only one woman minister, Rajkumari Amrit Kaur, Nehru's second cabinet had no women cabinet ministers. Nehru's third cabinet had one woman cabinet minister, Sushila Nayyar. Indira Gandhi never had any women cabinet ministers, though she had MOS ranked women in her cabinet. Lal Bahadur Shastri had only 3 women cabinet ministers, including Indira as information and broadcasting minister at that time. And Rajiv Gandhi had only 1 woman cabinet minister. Narendra Modi not only talks the talk, but he walks the talk and he walks the walk. We have 11 cabinet ministers. Rajdeep Sardesai ji, kabhi to Modi ji ko
Okay, so you've gone back to Nehru. Now, okay, you make a good point, ma'am. You make a good point. Let the others respond to that. Sushmita Dev, why don't you start off there? Because, you have a woman chief minister and she claims that she is empowering women. Obviously, after Sandesh Kali, her own reputation has taken a bit of a hit. As a woman chief minister, did she act, she didn't act fast enough. But the question remains, do we need more women leaders? We need far more women leaders in this country. Do you believe one Mamata Banerjee is enough? And does Mamata Banerjee actually consciously encourage other women to grow within her party?
You see, I definitely believe that there should be more women chief ministers in the country. Of course, Mamata Di is the only one as of now. And if you look at the data, Trinamool Congress is one party that has put women leaders at the forefront. She gave 40% tickets in the last Lok Sabha to women. And today we are proud to say that we are the party with the largest number of women MPs in Lok Sabha. And we are also one of the largest numbers of women member of parliament in Rajya Sabha. You see, it's very simple. A leader who's a vote catcher himself or herself, who actually ensures the victory of their candidates. There are very few leaders who are capable of pulling off an election like that. It is incumbent upon them to give women the opportunity and ensure their victory. Today, if you ask me, that Mamata Banerjee is the biggest vote catcher in Bengal, but she actually ensures that culminates into empowering other women in the party. So that's how
but there are only 13.5. Yeah, ma'am, there are only 13.5% MLAs who are women in the Bengal Assembly, which is again well below what it should be. Which is well below what it should be. But Shama Mohammed, look at the Congress party. You've got Sonia Gandhi there, but Sonia Gandhi. Despite Sonia Gandhi being there, when I look at the Congress party today, you tell me who are the women faces that your party has. I continue to believe that we are still a very patriarchal system.
Okay, Rajdeep, let me, a couple of points fast that let's understand the first woman speaker, Meera Kumar from the Congress party. First woman president, Pratibha Patil from the Congress party. First woman Prime Minister of India, Indira Gandhi from the Congress party. So we have always been there for women. And she spoke about the cabinet of Narendra Modi level, whereas in UPA's Manmohan Singh, it was 9 women. So we are not behind in women representation. Kumari, Haryana is a very patriarchal sort of state. Kumari Selja, PCC president over there. Not now, she was. So even Rita Bahuguna Joshi, before she left, she was the PCC president in UP. So we have given women opportunities, and you cannot deny it. Let's understand whenever there are women-centric issues. I see Priyanka Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi there. Hathras, they were there. The wrestlers' protests, they were there. See, this is a very big issue. One of the points which I agree with Nidhi is that southern states, what I was seeing the statistics, and that is true. Southern states are ahead in everything in terms of literacy, in health, everything. But it comes to representation in politics. If I saw the chart, and I agree with it, Telangana, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, and I can also include my state, Kerala. And it's not the parties, it is across parties. Kerala is one of the most patriarchal when it comes to politics. I mean, women, even if they stand...
Okay, that's a great... I agree with you that there the southern states have lost out. Nidhi, you wanted to make a point. Nidhi, you wanted to make a point. Go ahead.
The Congress party, I have just one
let Nidhi respond. Like Shama Mohammed, let Nidhi respond. Yes.
So, Rajdeep,
Go ahead,
as a journalist, I need to fact check what Sanju Verma gave. party neutral. Jawaharlal Nehru's first cabinet had one cabinet minister, that was Rajkumari Amrit Kaur. Today, we have grown, the cabinet ministers, Rajdeep, have only grown to 2. There are only 2 women cabinet ministers, not 11, ma'am. So here also, if we compare 1952, the first Lok Sabha, there were only 4.4% women in the Lok Sabha. And right now, we have grown to 15% of women. So this representation, Rajdeep, is not growing organically.
No, you're misquoting.
This is exactly the same argument.
No, 1 minute, 1 minute, Sanju.
No, you said, ma'am.
Okay, 11. That's an important point.
No.
That's an important point. But we've come 1 minute. No. You said 11 ministers. You said, ma'am. She has said there are only 2 of them are cabinet ministers. Let's not have cross talk. Kunal, voice down. Kunal, voice down. The last question I had was of safety of women. And Tara Krishnaswamy, while you've been working on representation of women, clearly in panchayats you jump. But I also want to briefly touch on safety of women. Is that an issue that you found people vote on? That if I am a leader who's seen to provide women safety, and we saw that with Yogi Adityanath in Uttar Pradesh. One of the reasons why Yogi Adityanath did well in UP, many believe, was law and order. That women really have a greater stake, some say, in ensuring law and order on the ground level. Do you see that, Tara Krishnaswamy, that that's something all politicians, men or women, need to be careful about and conscious about?
So I'll say 3 things, Rajdeep. First of all, thanks for bringing it back to women. We were talking about men and especially one man. So I want to bring it back to women and how women vote. So first of all, I think that there is, again, no silver bullet. Women's safety is certainly a key issue. If you take, for example, the gruesome incident that happened in Delhi with Jyoti Singh Nirbhaya, there was public mobilization around it. When women's safety becomes a public issue, when it is brought into the public domain onto the streets, certainly it influences the vote. Again, no silver bullet. Along with various other things, it becomes a key influencer of the vote. You take, for example, the wrestlers' protest. It spilled out onto the streets. But there are numerous other gruesome incidents that happen across the country in many states that don't become public issues. They may be even more gruesome, including Sandesh Kali, for example, right? It is not something that you're seeing on the streets in the rest of India. So whether it's going to influence the vote, highly unlikely. In Bengal, maybe, but certainly not in the rest of India. So that is number 1. Number 2, I think it's the wrong question to ask whether we have more chief ministers, more cabinet ministers. The right question to ask is, what are we doing to systematically increase the number of women in politics? For instance, when Biden-Harris took office, their campaigns themselves were meant to have more than 50% women. In some cases, 100% women run campaigns in some states. So when they took office as president and vice president, you had 100 women along with them take office in key positions in the administration, including communications, spokespeople, various other positions. Now in India, if you look at what we do to systematically enable women in politics, there has been the local body reservation, 73rd, 74th Amendment, that has truly entrenched that number of women in the local bodies. Now we have the current reservation bill, but we have serious issues with it because of the census, delimitation, and then a 15-year closure clause, right? A lock-in period. And whether that 15-year period has started ticking by the time census delimitation happens, whether we are even going to have 1 or 2 cycles of reservation is a big open question. But other than that, if you look at the 33% reservation within parties for office bearers, none of the parties fulfill that mandate. They themselves have reservation for office bearers, but they don't have those positions.
So they haven't.
So what we do systematically is the real question.
That's a very good point, that unless you have office bearers at every level, unless you have women provided greater representation, it's not just about MPs and chief ministers, it's right down the line. I have just 2 minutes on the show, and you all are all wonderful women, so I'm going to ask you this. If whoever becomes the Prime Minister in 2024, after the general elections, if there was one thing that you would ask him or her, it's unlikely to be a woman, but what would that one question be? Whoever becomes, and I have just 20 seconds, and this time I will limit you to 20 seconds. Sanju Verma, you've raised your hand. If you had one wish or demand of whoever becomes the leader in 2024 after the general election. What is that? 20 seconds, your time starts.
No, I cannot speak in 20 seconds because you've allowed Nidhi Sharma to misquote me. She says, there are only 2 cabinet ministers now. What did I say, Nidhi Sharma? From 1 in Nehru's cabinet, we've come to 11, which is more than a 900% jump. I expect as a journalist,
11 ministers.
You have basic knowledge of arithmetic.
Okay, so I asked you a question, ma'am. You're not going to answer the question.
Yes, so
what is the one wish you want from
an agenda to be peddled against the BJP?
20, she's made a point. No, ma'am.
Yes, so now let me
You
comment.
take your 20 seconds. Do you have a wish?
Yes.
Do you have a wish or not? If you don't have a wish, then I'll move on.
I have a wish. And that wish is that apart from women empowerment, let us have gender neutral laws. Let us raise the marriageable age actually from 18 to 21. And let us also, not forget that while women try to be alpha males, we just have to be comfortable in our own skin. And it takes a leader like Narendra Modi to ensure that women continue to live with dignity. Okay. And that is precisely why 8%
okay, your time is done. Your time is done. Producer, time done. 20 seconds, Shama Mohammed, 20 seconds. What's your one wish of whoever becomes the next Prime Minister or government of this country?
Don't do symbolic empowerment of women. Empower them deeply and in the right way. Don't put one person up there and say this is Dalit representation or this is an Adivasi representation. Empower them. Go out there and see to it that they are empowered in a true sense. And she spoke about Narendra Modi. Yes, he's crying
your
for
time
the
is up. What is the true sense? What is the true sense? Ma'am, what does true sense mean?
What is obsessed with Manipur? It is Rahul Gandhi who is always there for the women. Let me be very clear. But I want increased representation of women also in political parties, every political parties. It is dismal. We have to.
You made your point, and you also raised, and I'm glad you raised the women of Manipur because they often get lost. The plight of women of Manipur that we saw tragically in 2023. But 15 seconds to you now, Sushmita Dev, your one wish of whoever becomes the next government as a woman.
I'll say walk the talk like Mamata Banerjee and implement the Women's Reservation Bill with immediate effect and unconditionally.
Okay, unconditional implementation of Women's Reservation Bill. Nidhi, what is your one wish of our women politicians or government, the next government?
The Women Reservation Bill apart, there has to be better implementation of schemes and also better political participation, not just Women's Reservation Bill in legislatures and parliament, it has to be everywhere across. So more women should be there at the decision-making table. It can't be just lip service.
More women? Okay, more women at the decision-making table.
More women on the decision. Yes. Yes. And do not
more women on the decision-making table. Tara Krishnaswamy, you've got 10 seconds. Your one wish, what's your one wish of whoever comes to power?
Gender parity in formal labor force participation rate, no money, no future, and that is where Indian women are today. Okay,
I'm going to leave it there. It's been wonderful to have 5 women on the show today. May that long continue. Maybe in the future, we'll have many more, I hope, women anchors on television. I can tell you that when I started off in a newsroom, and I'm talking about 1988, less than 10% of our newsroom was women. Today, more and more newsrooms are almost 30, 40, even 50% and more. And I see, therefore, genuine change taking place, certainly in my profession. I hope that change takes place in India's politics. We need more women in leadership positions in public life. Thank you all very much for joining us. And once again, wishing all of you a happy International Women's Day. Jai Hind, Namaskar, Jai Mahila. Bye for now.